Hi, welcome to the first edition of Show and Tell with Genuinely Jane Studios. Today we're going to talk about stencils. We have a variety of stencils in the Genuinely Jane store, several from Diane Reevely, also some from the Crafter's Workshop, and a huge selection from Artist Seller. So we're going to use a lot of these stencils today and show you just some different things you might not have thought of when using your stencils. So the first is ink. I'm taking just a plain piece of wood and one of our stencils. I have the foam tool. Just going to pick up some of the ink and dab. This is a very thin stencil, so it tends to move, but that's not a problem. You can keep it in place with your hands. Okay, so now you can see that we put the background. But you can add some additional colors and do a gradiated, almost a rainbow effect, using the same stencils and the inks. Now, always make sure when you're using a stencil that your stencil is clean. Don't do as I do and leave the paint on it. Make sure you clean them frequently so you're not mixing your colors or your mediums. So the first color I have here is the Tim Holtz Distressed Ink and Scattered Straw. Then we have Tattered Rose. And now I'm going to finish it up with Aged Mahogany. Now, I like to blend my colors, so go over where you've already added the color so you can actually see the difference. Okay, and there we go. So you can see, using the same stencil, you have a gradiated version. Okay, the next one we're going to try is with paint. Now I'm going to show you two different paints here. I have the Adirondack acrylic paint dabbers. This is Stream. You just lay your stencil down and you dab. Make sure you get everywhere in the open part of the stencil. Now, stencil art is sometimes known in the visual art world as picoire. It is just a type of masking. You can do reverse masking with your stencils, or you can use found objects as stencils, but the technique itself is called picoire. So here, I'll just give you a peek at what our stencil looks like so far. And there you go. Now you might want to gesso it if you're dealing with something that doesn't have teeth, such as wood or certain types of paper. You might want to put a little gesso or an acrylic primer down. I'm just showing you the basic technique, so we won't be doing that. Another type of paint that I'm going to use is from Art Anthology. This is called Sorbet. It's a much thicker ink, rather paint, and it is translucent and shimmery. Yeah, I haven't had that extra cup of coffee today, so I'm still not speaking very well. So you'll see the difference, and that's CBS Sports letting us know that the games are almost on. I love the way that this paint comes across. It is very smooth. It is thick. It's almost gelatinous, but you'll see the shimmer and the sparkles. I love the way it goes on. The colors are vibrant yet translucent. And there you go. Now that's a little messy, but you get the idea. If we use gesso, and we wouldn't have had the runoff here. And we will be using gesso for a few of the stencil projects today. This is the Houndstooth, and this is also from Artist Seller. I love this one. It's so versatile. It's great for vintage products, steampunk, any projects for the man in your life. We've just put the stencil down. I did gesso this piece of wood, and I'm using pan pastels. Now these, if you haven't used them, are absolutely delicious. The colors are rich. There really is no powder residue when you use them, and they're so easy to use. Each of the packs of pan pastels comes with this little tool and sponges, so if you need to get into fine places, you can do that, or if you want to do very careful coloring with them. And you can just add more color to make the colors deeper, or you can leave them lighter, do grades of color. And again, there's just another finish. And I just love how easily the pan pastels work with the stencils on just about any canvas whatsoever. Here's another way to use stencils, and sprays and mists are so huge right now, and they come in a variety of colors, rich, beautiful colors, some shimmery, some matte. These are the new Art Anthology coloration sprays, and I really, really like these, much more so than the bottles because of the mist. You don't get as many droplets, and the mist is a lot finer. It's easier to control. I love these, and the colors are just so beautiful. Here we have guacamole and watermelon. You can see this one's gotten a good bit of use already. So we're just going to lay our stencil down. Now with the sprays, because they tend to bleed, I like to gesso the surface or use it on a surface that has some tooth. So I just laid the stencil down, and I'm just misting over. This one's wet, so try to be careful when you lift it. Now we'll give this a minute to dry, and while this dries, I'll show you another way that you can use your stencils, and then we'll do the next step. This is if you just use the spray over the stencil, but we're going to take this to the next level and show you how you can use another stencil and add some fun dimension to it. So the last thing that I'm going to show you for this video, before we get back to that, is using dimensional crystals. This is another Art Anthology product. Think of it sort of as not as sparkly of a Stickles, but it dries much, much quicker than the Stickles do. So I'm just going to take any stencil that I have laying here, and I'm going to use it in a pen. Now you can fill it in if you like, or you can use the outline. Although I would imagine you'd be a lot neater than I. And there you go. So you can use the stencils in a lot of different ways. And we're going to show you even more stencil techniques in video 2 of Show and Tell with Genuinely Jane. So this should be just about dry. I'm going to take this stencil, and as I said, make sure you don't do as I do, and you clean them off thoroughly in between, and lay a different stencil pattern over what we've already sprayed. Taking an alternate color, and there you go. So now you have a really funky and unique background using 2 different stencils. I think this is great for a summer piece or a spring piece. I love the way the guacamole and the watermelon pop together. So this would be a great background for a project, or to do on an embellishment, or really anything to give your project a kickstart. So that's the first episode of Show and Tell with Genuinely Jane. Come back next week and learn some more about fun with stencils.